What up, what up, what up? Hello and welcome everyone to this 38th episode of the Backwards Skate Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Hasbrock, and I'm joined each and every week by my co-host, Scott Kaiser. Scott, man, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on, brother? 2 weeks in between our last show, but we've got a whole lot of stuff to catch up on, man. Baseball season is fast and furious once it gets going.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It feels good though. We've got a nice little battle here between us, between our Jays and Braves here. So it's right now looking good for you. So there's that.
Well, it hasn't been looking good for me to start the year on the whole. We'll get to that in a little bit.
yeah.
We've got plenty to catch up on, a lot of news and notes. But I guess we will start there since it is the most surprising thing and near and dear to my heart. The Braves have started off sucking ass. There's no two ways about it. Season has not gone the way it was supposed to for the Braves so far. They come into tonight against the Blue Jays at just 4-11, tied for the worst record in baseball with the lowly White Sox, who were expected to have, if not the worst record in baseball, close to it. The Braves, on the other hand, picked by many to either get to the World Series or the next best odds behind the Dodgers to win it. Nothing going right so far. Pitching has been all over the place, up when the offense is down. Offense has been mostly down, but the couple times they've scored runs, the pitching has just not been there. It's your classic, just rough start to the season. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong so far. Not much else to say. Not really fun, but a lot of talented guys. So should be okay. I don't know, man. The Profar situation is kind of a gray cloud over the head. Spencer Strider's due back to come back this Wednesday for his first start of the season, so good news there. And Ronald Acuna saying that he's ready to go and looking to get back here in the next 2 weeks once the doctors clear him, so he should be good to go by May 1st. So reinforcements on the way and everything in general should be okay, but by God, they've got to start winning some games, man. It's not how you want to start a season that you're expected to win the World Series.
Yeah, like we always say, you can't win a division in April, but you can lose it. And right now, 6 games back of the New York Mets, quite the hole the Braves have dug for themselves. But in looking at, the rest of April, like you said, that there's going to be some reinforcements that are set to come back for you. You got, after the series with Toronto, you come home for 3 with Minnesota and then 3 with St. Louis. So those are 2 very winnable series for you there. Then you go on the road for 3 at Arizona and then 3 with Colorado. So the Diamondback series should be an interesting one, but Colorado, if you don't take all 3, then my God, it's going to be a tough one for you. Colorado's set, they're struggling just like we had expected, but just and looking at the rest of April, it's not, it's not too bad.
Scott pointing that we showed up this week, which is better than the Braves. And yes,
I'm going to take blame for that one. That's my bad for not getting the word out. So I'll eat shit on that one, guys. That's my bad.
Well, things happen and we weren't able to do the show last week, but basically the Braves just haven't done anything right. Like, it seems like they've been stuck in neutral since spring training ended. One of those things where it's like the season's going, guys, got to kind of get things up and the injuries can't be an excuse to start off because pretty much everybody's healthy, sans the ones that carried over from last year. Murphy's back and he's swinging a hot bat, but just in general, this team is way too much talent. These guys are way too good to be struggling the way that they are. And the season starting in LA or in San Diego and LA to start the year, doing the West Coast thing, beginning of the year, rough draw considering San Diego tied for the best record in baseball right now. And LA is LA. So, not making excuses, but not an easy 2 series to start the season. But just in general from there, this past weekend against the Rays looked like that was a prime opportunity. Rays been struggling offensively themselves, and you thought maybe that they'd go in there and take care of business there, but only able to win one of the three. And yesterday the wheels just fell off in Chris Sale's start, which that's been part of the problem. Like I said, when they do score runs, then the pitching isn't all there. They end up giving 8 in that game yesterday. So I think just needs kind of settle down. Guys just need to relax. Remember that they set records a few years ago and get back to doing what they do best. But I mean, that's pretty much all you can do in April at this point. I mean, there's a long season still ahead. So it's not like any of those guys are getting down on themselves or anything like that. But it is tough to dig yourself out of a hole if you compete too big of one. So I'm hoping that they're able to find their way back towards 500. And if you can get 500 by the end of April, then you're sitting pretty, and everything can be okay from there.
Oh, 1,000%. And after taking 2 or 3 from Philadelphia, you're thinking, okay, here we go. Now you can start to roll. And then, like you said, though, against Tampa, I mean, man, losing 2 or 3 in that one evened itself out. And it's like, it just, you can't, it's like they're playing tight right now. When you start off losing, and struggling like they are, guys tend to play tight. And that's what you're seeing right now from Atlanta. Like you said, take a deep breath and just kind of relax and let, and just let yourself just play baseball. And that's kind of what it comes down to. It's kind of, it's almost as simple as that. I mean, obviously there's a lot more that goes into it, but the first step is literally just, like you said, relax and go from there and let it play out. Like I said, you've got, the Toronto series is going to be an interesting one. Anytime you go up to Toronto, it's always different because, you're going to a whole different country. There's just different, going through customs and all that kind of stuff. It's different, than it would be traveling to another, to another city in the United States. But then, like I said, you got Minnesota. You're back home from Minnesota and St. Louis, like 2 very winnable series. And then, you go on the road for Arizona and Colorado. 2 very winnable series on the road there as well. So, again, if you can get back to 500 there, that would be a massive victory overall for the Atlanta Braves heading into, into the month of May, where you start off with the Dodgers and Reds. But again, for the Braves, sometimes, like I said, it's, you take a step back, take a deep breath, and just let the game just play out and stop playing so tight and go from there. So it'll be interesting to see, what comes of it, especially, like I said, in this 3-game series against the Jays, it's massive, and see where they can go from there.
Yeah, and the Jays have gotten started off pretty fast, 9-7. No American League team coming in today reached 10 wins yet, which was a little bit strange. But looking across the standings, all of the division leaders had 9 wins. Kind of funny. But sticking with Toronto, you mentioned them. Big news to start the year for them and to get things kicked off for their season. As we learned that Vladimir Guerrero will be staying basically for life, signs a 14-year, $500 million extension to the deal that he had, wipes off the years that he has on the deal and tacks on some more to the back end. No deferred money, so they're not going the Dodgers route. They're being stand-up citizens about this and paying all this money. Did pay him, though, a $320 million signing bonus on that deal. That $500 million. So that's quite a pretty penny of a signing bonus. But jokes aside, great to see both sides get this deal done. It's been talked about for the last couple of years. Vladdy had said, hey, once the season starts, we're not talking about this anymore, and you'll have to deal with everything after the season. Cooler heads prevailed, though. They finally get this deal done. I know that, Chris, you are very excited about this as you're a big Toronto guy. But what does this mean for Vladimir Guerrero and the Toronto Blue Jays to have this finally put behind both of them?
It's massive. It finally, puts to rest the future of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in Toronto. He's going to be there until he's 40. That's just it had to be done. And, I was complaining, I want to say last show about what what's taking them so long? It should not have gone this long. It should have been done a year or two ago. It probably cost the Jays a hefty penny, more than what they could have got Vladdy for. But regardless, it's done. Your face of the franchise is back. The face of a country is back, and that's what it's all about. And the Jays finally got it done. Props to both sides, for I saw an interview during the game tonight, because they unveiled Vladdy, like everything today, earlier on, but they had Ross Atkins on the Jays broadcast tonight, and he was talking about how great Vladdy was and how professional he was through the entire situation. Very easy to deal with, very receptive to a lot of things and giving solid feedback on others. So that's what it's all about. When you've got a franchise player like that, the face of your franchise, you've got to get a deal done. And, it's the deal that Vladdy was looking for. And for a team like Toronto, who is owned by Rogers, again, the largest media conglomerate in the country of Canada, there's no reason this, like I said, should have taken this long. Toronto's got the money. They finally made it happen. And it's great to see. The good thing is with the Blue Jays, they have a ton of money coming off the books within the next 2 years. So a bunch of money coming off this year or after this season, and then the following year as well. So Toronto has a lot of money to play with, and that's going to be the interesting part of it. Now that they have Vladdy signed long-term, of what they can do moving forward. And that was the biggest question was, they were trying to figure out, how are they going to handle, some of the free agent contracts, with obviously going after Shohei and going after Juan Soto. And without having Vladdy done, it sent a lot of uncertainty out in the market. And that was the big question. Now it's gone now. So that's the beauty of it. If you are a Toronto Blue Jays fan now, you have, like I said, it's certain now. Vladdy's there. Now they're looking, from what I've heard, they're going to be shifting their focus now to Bo Bichette. Make that happen. If you can get him signed long-term as well, there you go, because you're still going to have Santander under contract. You got a couple big boppers there under contract. This is great for Toronto. I'm pumped that they finally made it happen. It's going to be great to see what happens now after, like I said, this season, and what's going to happen with, their approach now to free agency, with, like I said, a good amount of money coming off the books. So that's something to definitely take in, to keep an eye on and keep watch on. So, but overall, it's fantastic. Very happy for the Jays and their fans. Finally got a big deal done with one of the top young players in all the game.
Well, and yeah, you mentioned free agency, and they've struggled the last couple of years. We've talked about it, getting to free agency and having guys kind of use them to get the bigger contracts elsewhere. And we've heard some of the excuses of being Canada and having to deal with all the transitions between back and forth in the countries and the money. But part of that was also, what's going to happen with Vladdy? And guys didn't know what the status was with him. And, it hard to tell guys, oh, hey, yeah, it'll get done or whatever. And then you get to the last year of the deal and everybody's kind of looking around like, is it going to get done? And free agents are probably saying to themselves, see, that's exactly why, I didn't end up there, because of the uncertainty. Well, now that uncertainty's gone. So hopefully that now that's been taken care of, you get to the off seasons to come, and maybe they won't have to deal with that unknown. They definitely won't have to deal with that unknown anymore, but maybe it'll help, reel in some of these other guys that they go after moving forward, because hey, they're not only were they committed to giving the guy the money like they said they would be, now there's a plan in place and there's a clear path forward with one of the best young hitters in the game. So let me sign up for that versus, well, I don't know if he's going to be there, and then am I going to be stuck there without him? So good news for both sides, absolutely. And for baseball in general, in sports, it's always good when a guy comes up through a system or is drafted by a team or whatever and is able to stay with them for, all of their career, it looks like in this case. But at the very least, the absolute majority of it, who knows what may happen, years down the road. But all signs point to him beginning and ending his career as a Toronto Blue Jay, and that's good for sports. So
Yeah, and it's nice when you see, like I said, a face of the franchise stay in a particular location. That's you know, it's even better when they're homegrown, like you were saying with Vladdy being the case there. But
yeah, because it
it's
sends a message to everybody in that
yeah,
organization, all those guys, like, hey, if I do what I'm supposed to do, end of the day, this organization will pay me, what I think I'm valued as. And it may take a little bit, but hey, they got the deal done, and that all that matters is the results. So guys see that
yeah,
they did what they said they were going to do at the end of the day, and so that gives them confidence that they can stay in that organization and not have to necessarily always look over their shoulder if they find themselves in a situation where they too are, looking at a long-term deal someday. Like,
yeah.
that's big for those guys.
Oh, 1,000%. And it was, like I said, it was frustrating because it never should have taken this long, and it probably cost them, some key free agents over the last couple of years. But you bring that upon yourself. But they were able to get it done. And again, it's amazing how much you know how much things change when there's certainty involved. And locking up Vladdy long term like this again shows the free agents to be and everything like that, shows the market that there is certainty of who's playing in Toronto. And that's key. You want to have, you want to be able to sit there and say, all right, this is concrete, and then go from there. So it's a crucial deal for Ross Atkins and company to get done.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously everybody's just kind of milling about it as you look across the landscape record wise of the American League in general. Everybody's kind of around that 9-6, 9-7 mark, but the Blue Jays, could have gotten off to a much slower start, and this has to have boosted morale a little bit to where it's like, hey, they're playing a little bit better to start the season than maybe some people had predicted for them, and all the doom and gloom of this could potentially be the last year of Vladdy and Bichette, and now you put that in the rearview mirror, at least for one of them for now, and now you can just go out there and play baseball. And who knows how the rest of this season will go, because that cloud isn't hanging. Anytime they struggled or anytime they went on a skid, the questions were going to be asked. How much longer is Vladdy going to be here? Are they going to trade him? At what point do they need to pull the ripcord? And that stuff gets old and grating, and it takes its toll on the team and the players having to answer those questions. So, again, good all around that this doesn't have to linger over the franchise or the player any longer than it needed to.
Pumped them up so much they're getting their tits lit up right now. So there's that.
Well, that's it's the regression. It's the positive regression for the Braves offense. After not scoring any runs for the first 2.5 weeks, they've exploded up in Canada. They just keep their asses up there and score more runs.
Good Lord.
In the National League, talking about the American League, in the National League, speaking of a team that we weren't expecting necessarily to, now you had higher hopes for them than I did, but the Padres have come out and only lost 3 games this year, and that's with Tatis missing a game or two because he hurt his shoulder on a swing on his follow through and missed a game to rest that up. But he has come out as a man on fire to start the year. They're 13-3 leading the National League West. Obviously too early to say anything, but undefeated at home. Look really good for having lost all the guys that they lost in the offseason. And like I said, I personally thought it was a little much. And when you factor in how much Arizona did and the Dodgers continued to do, it just looked like San Diego might just fall back to the kind of the rest of the field there in the NL West. Giants got a little better with some of their additions, but maybe I was wrong, at least in the early going. Padres look good. So as long as they can stay healthy, it looks like it might be a 3-horse race out in the West, kind of like you thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of going through the stats, man. Like it's with them, Tatis is the one leading the way. I mean, he's batting 351. He leads the team in home runs, runs scored, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, hits. I mean, this is this is what you want when you pay a guy like Fernando Tatis, man. You expect him to to ball out, and that's exactly what he's doing. This is a hell of a team, man. I watched them. Their 3-game series with Colorado. They shut them out 3 straight games, and that's it's pretty damn rough there to get swept and not score a run. But again, it's just overall, man. I mean, everything's clicking right now for San Diego, and it gives them a lot of hope right now. Like I said, 13-3, pretty impressive stuff for the Padres. Got a massive series right now against the Cubs starting tonight in San Diego. So that should be a good one. Jamison Tyone going against Dylan C. So that's a good matchup there. San Diego looks to stay hot. I mean, they're a game and a half up on San Francisco and 2.5 up on the Dodgers. So, man, they've been fun to watch. I didn't expect them to be leading the division early on, but man, it's good to see. So impressive stuff in San Diego.
Yeah, and sitting there talking about kind of surprising things to start off the season. Another surprising note is the way that the A's have played out there in the West too. Much is made about the fact that they're no longer in Oakland, but them playing there in Sacramento, there's been a whole lot of runs scored out there in Oakland. The Cubs had a series out there. They scored a boatload of runs between the two of them. The Rays were out there, and also, there was a scoring fest. Again, the Athletics not expected to necessarily compete this year, but they've looked good. Much better than I think people thought so far. They're at the bottom of the West right now at 6-10, but a much more entertaining team to watch. And I think just in general, being at that stadium would be something to talk about. Tyler Soderstrom, really fast start, was leading the American League in home runs, I believe, through this past weekend. I know at one point he was leading the way with 6, but that was before coming into the weekend. Just in general, though, the A's looking good. Also out west, when you talk about the American League, Houston, another team that we thought was going to get out and do their offense has struggled. They have struggled to keep things humming along there on the base. They've woke up a little bit lately, but maybe just a little bit more attrition than we thought going on there in Houston. Off to a slower start than we thought maybe that they would be. Looking at the rest of the divisions, though, everything kind of taking shape as we're seeing is just that some of those standout ones. I know we didn't talk yet about the Reds, but we should talk about them because they started off the season very slow on offense. So had multiple games where they didn't score a run. And it looked very, very hopeless and frustrating for the Reds office. They picked it up a little bit lately and got things going. But I think more to the point, the talk of the town and of the National League so far, at least on the pitching side, has been Hunter Green. Hunter Green has been lights out this season so far. Just mowing through teams. The best he's ever looked, and probably exactly what the Reds hoped for. Everybody remembers when he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated before getting drafted, and this was the hope that someday. I think it took a lot longer than some people might have liked, but Hunter Green has arrived, and now you just pray and cross your fingers and hope that he can stay healthy, because really that's the only thing that's held him back the most to this point in his career. Now that he's kind of figured out what to do with his pitches and sequencing and all that, has been health. So let's hope that Hunter Green stays healthy.
Man, if he does, and then the Reds, they've definitely lucked out. They signed him to a long-term deal a couple years ago. Locked him up, relatively cheap. So good for them on that. But right now Hunter Green, he's 2-1, 4 games started, 2-1.98 ERA, and 27 2/3 innings pitched. He's got 31 strikeouts. Dude's just been unbelievable, man. He's been so much fun to watch. Just pumping the gas in there, man. It's just this is the Hunter Green that we were expecting when the Reds drafted him. This was him, man. This is exactly what that expectation was. It's taken a while, but he started to pick it up late last year. Towards the end of the season, things were really starting to roll, and he started right where he left off. And it's been fun. I mean, you and I, when we went to the Reds Rangers game a couple weeks ago, we watched him face off against Jack Leiter, and that was a 1-0 loss he suffered. That was the only loss he suffered, but that was a hell of a pitching duel that we watched. But man, he was mowing him down then. He looked really good. Again, it's when you draft a pitcher as high as the Reds did with Hunter Green, this is what you expect. And it's just nice to see the fruits of their labor there on that. And it's well deserved because he's just been absolutely phenomenal. One thing that I had seen, I was going to ask you this question as well. It's been a question that's been floated around the area, and I've heard it numerous times. What happens first, a Hunter Green Cy Young or an Elly De La Cruz MVP?
I think that Hunter Green is closer to winning the Cy Young than Elly is to winning the MVP, and I only say that because in order to win the MVP, you've got to be better than Shohei. In order to win the Cy Young, you just have to be the best pitcher that year. So, unfortunately for Elly, while I think that he has MVP level talent, and if he ever does cut down on the strikeout rate, I do think that there's going to be a year where we look at it and say, "Holy crap!" He was like the best player in baseball. It's just going to depend on if Shohei Ohtani has done Shohei Ohtani things and it nullified anybody from winning, because pretty much every year that he has played baseball, he's won it with ease in both the American League and National League. So if Ohtani's in the picture, I don't think Elly's winning it, but I just think at their current the current places in their career and in their games, I do think that Hunter Green's closer anyway. Like just the way he's pitching right now, it would be it's easier to see him win the Cy Young than it is to see Elly win the MVP. Also, the MVP too tends to have more of a team factor surrounding it. So it's like if the Reds aren't in contention, it's hard for him to garner the votes. Whereas like you can win the Cy Young and be on a last place team like that. That won't stop you. So.
That's a good point. Yeah. And I think last year the answers would have been probably more flip-flopped. Just based off of, but I mean, just the way, like I said, the way Green came on, late last year and then what he's done so far. I completely agree. And that would be my answer as well. He's just, I mean, man, it's been so much fun to watch, and it's kind of nice seeing, him being the talk of the league, from just, people are just, they're finally seeing what we've seen. So yeah, it's awesome.
I think it was a product of prospect fatigue a little bit. We heard about him for so long, and it was so like the noise was so loud on him coming out of, coming into the draft and him getting drafted. And then, like we said, it took a while for everything to kind of click, and it's kind of fits and starts. We're just like, oh, here he comes. But then there's all the struggles and the adjustments, and then the health concerns and the injuries he's facing. It's just like, it's just kind of taken a long time from the time we first heard the name Hunter Green till, in mainstream level until now. So I think it just where people just kind of got tired of talking about it, because it just happens when it takes a little longer for guys. And funny enough, this would have been like natural progression 20, 30 years ago. Like
Well,
guys
exactly,
used to
yeah.
get drafted and then you just didn't hear from them until they were in the bigs, and then they had their, their cups of coffee, and they might have struggled or started in the bullpen or whatever. And there was just a different way of doing it. But now it's like, these guys are expected to be in the bigs within the year or two after getting drafted, and if they're not, they're a disappointment and a failure. And in the eyes of a lot of fans, there's no chance, there's no time for these guys to get developed anymore. So it's just kind of a normal way that it used to be handled. But at least Green's kind of made it there, even if it took the old school way of having to take the long journey to get there.
It was also like you had mentioned the prospect fatigue part. That's so true, man. Like, the same thing. And I just mentioned the game that we went to with Jack Leiter. There was all that hype around Jack Leiter when he was drafted. Yeah. And, he just never, like when he made his debut, it was cool to see, but then he ended up getting sent back down and never, was able to stay up. But then, we saw him again pitch against the Reds. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? And it was like, man, this is what, this was the matchup that we were, back, a couple years ago was like, oh my God, it has been incredible.
Right, on paper, on paper,
it's best
matchup you drool over.
Yeah, and it turned out to be that way, which was awesome. But it's that fatigue part is the best way to put it, man. It sucks because it's just the way the game has changed and the way these guys are covered now compared to what it was a while ago. It's just, can tend to burn these guys out early on, at least their image.
No, for sure. Scott pointing out in the chat that the Reds are playing Detroit this year. He'd love to see Green and Skubal match up. Oh, that sounds tantalizing too.
1,000%, man.
Also weighing in on the question, saying that Blake Snell has 2 Cy Youngs, so it's clearly Green in the Cy Young over MVP, and he loves Ellie. And then also with the prospect fatigue, mentioning Casey Mize, same sort of thing. Yeah, where like this year he's finally kind of starting to maybe turn a little bit of a corner. But I mean, we've been hearing about Casey Mize forever, another one who's drafted number 1 overall, and it seems like a lifetime ago, but he's really not that old. I mean, he's not that old, he's just old in prospect years and just, having heard about him. But in general, in terms of baseball and the way that, careers used to go, what really sucks is that the guys who have come up and just had immediate success have ruined it for the rest of them.
Would you say Gavin Lux would have that prospect fatigue?
Yeah, but with Gavin Lux,
because I was talking to my neighbor about that yesterday. I think we were watching a little bit of the game, and I was like, just
I mean, he struggled too with it. Like a lot of what hurt him was injuries too. Like he had that really big name for but then he just couldn't stay healthy. And every time that the Dodgers seemingly had a spot for him, something would happen. He tore his ACL, whatever it was. Like when he was finally going to be given the reps, the regular reps, something always happened. So, I mean, to a little bit, but I also think that time and injuries may have just sapped him of what he was going to possibly become. I mean, I still think he could be a full player, but
he'll be solid, but
the
not what that level.
Right. Yeah. It just doesn't look like he'll reach that. I mean, I'm feeling the same. It's like the same kind of thing with Jared Kelenic. It's looking like that. It's just, no matter what the pedigree is, he's floated around a lot and had that pedigree, but at some point it's just like, well, maybe that's not going to happen. And, Atlanta has him for the next couple of years, but it doesn't look like it's going to click in that way that you would think.
Along those same lines, who is kind of teetering on that? Julio Rodriguez.
He's
teetering. He's not.
Well, I think the main frustrations with Julio are that people saw that rookie year, and that rookie year was just so gangbusters, and then he got the deal. He got the deal on the heels of the rookie year, And it's almost detrimental to get the deal like after you have that rather than before. Like you'd rather be Churio.
I was just gonna say Rodney Jackson Churio.
Yeah, sign the deal before you blow up. So then it's like, hey, they're just gonna keep running me out there, even if I suck. I've got 20 million in the bank this year, whatever. But yeah, I think the frustration is like I still think very highly of Julio, but
I love Julio. I
do think there's rumblings and some folks who want to kind of disparage what he still has yet to have. He's just so streaky. Is the toughest part with Julio's when he's hot, he's red hot, but when he's cold, man, I mean, it just like there's nothing there, and his cold stretches can last for a long time.
His cold stretches last a lot longer than those hot stretches.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking. He leads the team in strike. He's got 19 strikeouts already.
Right. Like, and I mean, and it's just like it's tough, man. I mean, because players and fans alike remember you remember the failure more than the successes. It seems like for guys like especially when they come on so quickly and have success, right away, hit the ground running. But you see it. We've seen it plenty of times in baseball with guys who win Rookie of the Year and then are almost never to be heard from again. That's it. That's their peak is their rookie year.
Yeah, and that's where I was like, he's teetering on that, and that's what kind of,
Yeah, but I think he's got a longer leash because he does have the deal. So I mean, I don't think that. Yeah. I think Seattle, and plus Seattle doesn't have much option. They don't have much offense to speak of, so they're gonna have to wait for him to do what he's does that excel.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting. I was just kind of curious. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, that's one to definitely keep an eye on because again, he's so talented and he's so much fun to watch that it's like, man, I mean, I hate seeing that because of of how good he is. And like I said, it just you hate seeing that for some of these guys that are so hyped up coming in and being successful right that first year, and then it just kind of wheels fall off and shit goes sideways.
Yeah, but yeah, I do see what you mean though, where it's kind of like for some people there is that like when is he going to take that next step?
Yeah, that was. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was going to get into the fact that injuries still being a big part of the early season going here, even though we thought we escaped them last year. We talked about Houston, but one of the more random injuries that's happened so far this year is Spencer Arguetti missing 6 to 8 weeks after getting hit in the hand off a line drive during BP. It was out in the outfield playing catch and caught a line drive, hit him square in his pitching thumb, broke it, and he's out 6 to 8 weeks. So that's cool. And then it was announced yesterday that Justin Steele for the Red Hot Cubs to start the season. The Cubs have gotten out to a fast start, and they will be without the services of their ace for the next year and change because he has to have reconstructive elbow surgery. So Tommy John coming for Justin Steele. Just proving the theory that throwing hard is the only thing that will end up underneath the knife with Tommy John. Justin Steele not known for throwing hard, but yet here we are. So not great to start off the year with injuries. There was another one that I'm trying to think of or that I had jotted down that was a big deal besides that one.
Well, Max Scherzer is going to see a thumb specialist for the second time. So there's that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the pitching injuries. Pablo Lopez also went on the IL with a bum hammy. You had Ryan Weathers before the season started, Jared Jones before the season started. There's been a lot of pitchers go down in the first 3 weeks of the year, and I know there's been talk about how it happens every year, and sometimes it just feels like it's more highlighted or whatever. And statistically, injuries are more likely to happen at the beginning of the year just because guys are getting back into things after, sitting for the entire offseason. But it just sucks when it's right out of the gate. You're like, and in the case of a Justin Steele who had just pitched a gem 2 days later on the shelf, less than a week later, season done for the year.
Yeah.
So, it's part of the game. And, it's unavoidable, but it sucks to see, like, after a year like last year, especially where it was nonstop. Every time we turned around, oh, hey, there's more injuries. Like,
every damn episode we did was talking about a massive injury.
yeah, it really
Silver lining,
was.
man.
Yeah,
God,
and well, I mean,
yeah.
even to start off spring training, it's like we had a little bit of a reprieve where it was like, hey, everything's all right, and then once it started, it just kind of snowballed as far as guys get knocked out. So let's hope that once the weather warms up a little bit, we can get away from it. But so far, another one to keep an eye out on your favorite players, because they could be next when it comes to these injuries so far.
Yeah, no kidding. Hopefully not. My God.
Was there anything that you had that surprised you the first week?
No, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that and we touched on a little bit ago, just the American League and how tight it is. I mean, there's really, no wiggle room at all. It's pretty, these teams are within, 3.5, 4 games, all from top to bottom. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's pretty, it's pretty impressive to see what you're getting there compared to what you're seeing in the National League, where the teams that we expected to suck or started to suck right from the get-go. So that was kind of, to be expected, like I said, with Colorado and everything like that. But I'd say, that's really the most surprising part of it. I mean, just how tight everything is in the American League.
Yeah, nothing surprising so far to me, except for the fact that the Braves haven't gotten it going. Another big piece of news today was that named captain of Team America in the upcoming World Baseball Classic was Aaron Judge. The last captain, Mike Trout, ceding the captainhood to Aaron Judge, who hasn't participated. This will be his first World Baseball Classic. But you and I have talked about it before. We both love the World Baseball Classic, and it needs guys like Judge and Trout and the biggest names and the biggest stars in the game to be headlining it. I mean, one, because it's a great thing for the game in general, but two, because it's just more fun when all of the countries have their best players starting for their teams, and all the other countries don't have the problems of, there's a little bit more hesitancy on Team USA's part, because a lot of players are from the US, and the owners would prefer their players not participate in the World Baseball Classic for the most part. So a lot of times the US has to resort to some B and C options at the positions just to make sure that they have the team. And that's not to say that the guys that they've had on the team weren't all-stars in their own right, but if you had been able to fill out the top players, top American position players at every position over all the WBCs, there was definitely positions that we were looking at where it's like, yeah, we could do better, or we don't have the best guy at that position, even though still able to compete with the best in the world despite that.
Oh yeah. And they were the victim of injuries and stuff like that in the past, so that did kind of rob us. But I harken back to our interview with Carter Schaus, man. Like when we talked about him, wearing the Team USA jersey and what that meant. And he was a 15-year-old kid who's like, dude, it was one of the greatest things ever, and the honor of wearing that USA jersey, man. It's got to feel amazing for Aaron Judge too, to be named captain of this team. That, you're going to see the likes of Bobby Witt Jr., hopefully Mike Trout again, Aaron Judge. We've got some dudes that are going to be, donning the red, white, and blue. It's going to be so. I absolutely flip and love this event, and again, it's just even better when the best players are playing. You see the passion that the teams like the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and those countries that just absolutely go bananas, each and every game. And it's like, I want that for Team USA games. That's it's so cool. And international competition, I love it. I love it in hockey. I love it in soccer. and you name it, it's fun for me. So, especially in the WBC, because this event is it's awesome right from the get go, man. It's great.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. International competition is the best, and yeah, we deserve to be able to see the best that every team has to offer at other positions. Because when you look at the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and I think those guys take so much pride. And again, that's not to say that the Americans don't,
but no,
but it's just a different level of excitement and a different level of like wanting to beat those other guys that like the USA team just doesn't have. It's like a rivalry that kind of doesn't have that level of angst, amongst all the other teams. Like, but maybe losing to Japan and whatnot, it maybe, and with the rise of more Japanese stars in the major leagues, maybe that kind of will push things forward a little bit, because again, Japan puts their best foot forward. They always have their top guys, and if they're going to have their top guys and winning the whole thing, and you watch them celebrate, at Dodger Stadium or wherever the finals may be, it's like maybe that gets old for some of these guys, and they, want to get in there and compete. So it's only good when you see a judge say, hey, this is important enough for me to be there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, I just pulled up what the potential Dominican lineup would be. Ketel Marte, Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto, Jose Ramirez, Vladdy, Rafael Devers, Willie Adames, Julio, and Yainer Diaz.
And Tatis was hurt the last time around, so he couldn't participate in it. So, I mean, that lineup's gotten even better since the last
insane,
time.
Man. It's like, that's what I want, but I want to see, our guys go up against that. That's what I want. That's just what's awesome. And, Manny Machado, who has started for them for, last couple WBCs, he's not even listed on there as a starter. He's probably going to be playing, he'll be platooning with somebody in there. It's like, it's awesome. That's what is so great about the WBC. And again, we talked about it a couple shows ago with Japan. We see these Japanese stars before they come over and go to the Dodgers, but it's like, that is, we see these guys before they hit it big and come over here. And that's cool. We see our established stars here in the United States, and we see them with the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and you'll see a couple smattered in with Colombia and Venezuela. But overall, man, it's this is what it's all about, and again, seeing the best of the best, against each other is what that event's all about, and seeing an Aaron Judge, that number 99, and in that USA jersey is going to be so freaking sweet to see. Despite the fact he's a Yankee, I know that's what we were talking about prior, to the show, but it's awesome, man. I absolutely live for it. I absolutely freaking live for it.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think that's a good place to leave.
Might as well.
Outdo. I was gonna say there's nothing that's gonna outdo WBC talk, man.
Exactly. I know. I can do it all the time, man.
And as great as of the first 2 weeks as it's been, there's still so much more baseball to be left to be played. So we're just going to keep on watching and keep plugging along. We hope that you join us here every Monday, or every Monday that we're able to do it at least. Chris isn't giving me shit about it. This has been another episode of the Backwards K Baseball podcast. We appreciate you guys joining us. You can find us where you find all your good podcasting needs. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. The Impact Sports Cincinnati Podcast Network, as well as the Craft Brew Podcasting Network. We're also on YouTube. Again, we're here every Monday live. We appreciate you guys joining us. For Chris, I am Scott. This has been another episode of the Backwards K Baseball Show. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you later on. Peace.